Wars do not take place only between armies. After the first bullet is fired, everyone becomes part of this battle. Until the moment the peace agreements are signed, everybody is a candidate for military service. At the same time, each building is also a candidate for a military facility. Just like people, buildings become a part of war. We can mention that in wars, every building has a degree of importance, especially fuel tanks are very important because they carry fuel, which is of great importance for the resupply of the army. The war between Russia and Ukraine, the largest armed conflict of the century, continues. While Ukrainian troops are continuing their counterattack on the front line, they are also carrying out critical operations on Russian positions and Russian resources points behind the front line. As you know, the Ukrainian army, which carried out these operations even before the counteroffensive began, had gained a great advantage by destroying important positions of the Russian army. Recently, there has been significant developments in the Dagestan region of Russia. Local sources claim that the Ukrainian army is behind the fact that this incident took place. So what happened in Dagestan? Let's take a look at the latest developments together. We will soon review the details about the explosions in the Dagestan region. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so as not to miss our events such as the Dagestan explosion, which is an important detail on the agenda and map analysis reports. The deconfliction between the Russian army and the Ukraine continues on the front line. The Ukrainian army continues its attacks on the Russian positions behind the front line as well as the front line. Recently, it was claimed by local sources that the Ukrainian army carried out an operation within the borders of Russia. According to allegations, a gas station in Dagestan region of Russia had blown up when drone hit it. All the fuel in the gas station's tank had also caught fire. According to local sources, the explosion was quite violent, so much so that many buildings in the area were shaken by the violence of explosion. At the same time, the fire at a gas station had spread over a fairly wide area. Russian fire crew responding to the fire could not get results for a long time. It is claimed that the fire that broke out in the area is continuing at the moment. The explosion experienced during the night hours fell on the agenda almost like a bomb. According to Russian sources, the explosions were caused by Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles. However, some sources state that such a situation is out of the question. According to these sources, the Ukrainian armed forces have never targeted the Dagestan region before, even though they have been hitting targets located within the Russian Federation since the beginning of the war. Therefore, it is claimed that the probability that this region was hit by an attack by Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles is quite low. The claims of local sources in question seems quite logical. So what really happened? Some local sources claim that the explosions at the gas station was caused by an attack by separatist Russian groups. According to the allegations, separatist Russian groups acting late at night planted handmade explosive at the gas station. Detecting the hours when the area was crowded, separatist Russian group detonated the bomb by remote control when the appropriate time arrived. With the explosion of the bomb, Russian separatist groups left the area. The Russian Interior Ministry and the Defense Ministry are continuing the investigation into the explosion in question. It is reported that a large number of unmanned aircraft lost their lives during explosions and fires. So what happens after that? As we have just mentioned, the Ukrainian army has struck Russian targets located within the borders of the Russian Federation many times since the beginning of the war. However, for the first time, a target was hit in the Dagestan region. Experts who accept the possibility that the Ukrainian army carried out the attack correctly claim that a new dimension has been opened in the war. This dimension refers to a new front that has been opened towards Dagestan, which is located within the borders of Russia. The events taking place within the borders of the Russian Federation are causing quite a panic to the local population. The events that have been taking place within the borders of the Russian Federation since the past month are causing the local population to become angry with the government of the Russian Federation. The president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, on the other hand, remains silent about the events in question. There are also very remarkable events taking place on the front line in the terms of the future of the Russian army. Recently, information was shared with the public that Russian commanders were attempting to take bribes. According to allegations, the wives of Russian soldiers serving in the Russian army bribed the Russian commanders. The phone calls made by the woman who bribed the commanders to return her husband from the front line to the Russian commanders were reflected in the press. In these phone calls, they discuss allegations about Russian commanders forcibly conscripting Russian men. The Russian woman says that her husband was forcibly conscripted and that if anything happens to him, all the responsibility will belong to the Russian general staff. In addition, the Russian woman also states that she will sue the Russian commanders if her husband loses his life. There are many details during the interview. A Russian woman offers a large amount of money to the Russian commander for her husband to leave his military service and return home. However, the details of the response of the Russian commander are not reflected in the phone call. Local sources, on the other hand, make quite remarkable claims. According to local sources, the Russian commander accepted the bribe offer. And interesting developments about another Russian soldier was reflected in the press recently. According to the allegations, a Russian soldier was serving on the front line was suffering from a very severe psychological disorder due to his life on the front line. The Russian soldier in question wanted to leave the front because of the psychological problems he was experiencing. The family of the Russian soldier took action to save the Russian soldier. According to the allegations, the family met with Russian commanders. However, Russian commanders rejected the family's offer for the Russian soldier. Moreover, he claims that Russian commanders asked for the bribes from the family. The family in question makes the following statements about this issue. The Russian commanders are just getting rid of people. They don't see you as anything but meat. Yes, it's true. Money still has a role, but their intention is to eliminate as many people as possible. The confliction between the Russian army and the Ukrainian army continues. At the same time, significant developments are taking place behind the front line. The developments in recent days show that the Russian army and the Russian Federation are being dragged in chaos more and more every day. What do you guys think? Do you think the Ukrainian army carried out the attack in Dagestan? How will this attack affect the Russian Federation? What do you think about the bribery allegations against Russian commanders? We care about your opinions. Please share them with us.